This because I read Ben Franklin's autobiography earlier in the year, and the thing I was so enamored by is just like how, and this is like a big thing, the big difference I think between American and British culture is just this like sense of American pragmatism. And I feel like British culture is a lot more kind of like like even what we're doing now, it's like more philosophical. It's more like, you know, in a sense like aristocratic, like, in a way elite, where it's like we're just like talking about the situation, like kind of, high-minded, high ideas, and Americans like, well, where does the rubber meet the road? And this is so well captured for me in Ben Franklin's quote, God helps those who help themselves.
Hmm.
And I think that kind of encapsulates that Matthew point you were talking about there in like a really concrete way. I think just like kind of taking a step and pulling us out of Christianity, because one of the things you and I talk about a lot is like we as a culture have like ripped ourselves so far away from like like, I both have friends who would come to mind when we talk about this, where like if you were to frame anything like I see that smile, God helps those who help themselves, and like even if you're like an irreligious person, like I think you ought to be able to like understand what is meant by that phrase. But I feel like we're so, in a sense, culturally allergic to anything that smells religious that it's really hard to kind of put these in a mimetically viral enough way that will kind of spread through people's minds and spread and like be effective. I think the way in which this has been secularized and like you've pulled out the value of a lot of the stuff we're talking about now is through mindfulness and a practice of gratitude. And for example, like me and my girlfriend, before we eat every meal, we like take a second to be like, I'm grateful to have food. I'm grateful to have some time with you. I'm grateful for my life, like that, I'm not in like a war-torn hellhole, basically. And it doesn't need to be like, thank God for um the blessings I'm about to receive or whatever we said at school. It's like, um, okay, well, let's strip out what this is trying to do in a sense. Um, I think though, ultimately, like it will never at the start be as deep as something that's like as long and history and has been through so much like kind of cultural evolution in the same way like genes go through kind of survival of the fittest, like memes go through survival of the fittest. So yeah, man, I think yeah, I guess I'm also rambling a little bit here, but it's like, where does the kind of secular version of that get you versus like the the religious version? I mean, what are the downfalls of that? Like, also, like, how do you even get people to like start re-engaging with a more timeless version? I guess the way I've seen it happen is just like people are like temperamentally very conservative, like traditional things, and they want to kind of cling to like old-fashioned things. Um, but then how do you speak to those like temperamentally kind of more, I guess, liberal, kind of open-minded people and get them to like loop back into these kind of older ideas? And I think the way it's only really worked is through like at the moment, like mindfulness is completely secularizing all the parts of religion. And the one thing they haven't done yet is the community aspect, clearly, and like getting together and singing together in a big group, specifically, everyone coming together and singing, specifically singing, which I think is like the biggest thing that like secular life has lost. I mean, there's only narrow places you can do it in a secular sense, like a football game, um, sports in general, protest probably. All these things have like massive singing components. Um, but when I used to sing hymns at school, with everyone, and we're all like belting it out, singing together, it's like that loss of the sense of yourself and like kind of the greater whole. And that's when people get the chills down the spine. Music has a very tight coupling with that sense of awe. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think we're trying to strip it out, like all the things that worked. We haven't really done a very good job of it, I guess. Um, yeah,